The battlefield lay silent under a sky that had turned a deep, haunting crimson, the color of blood and sacrifice. The once vibrant landscape, full of life and hope, now looked like an apocalyptic scene. Where green fields had thrived, only barren earth remained, scorched and cracked. Blackened trees stood like twisted skeletons, their branches reaching out in all directions, as if trying to grasp the sky that had now abandoned them. The ground was littered with debris, pieces of shattered metal from alien ships, broken weapons discarded by fallen warriors, and the remnants of what had once been homes, reduced to dust and ruin. The air was thick with the pungent scent of smoke and ash, lingering from the long days of destruction. A haze hung in the air, as though the very atmosphere itself was still recovering from the chaos that had unfolded. The distant hum of damaged alien machines, now silent and broken, mixed with the eerie silence that had settled in the wake of battle. Everywhere you looked, signs of conflict were evident. Scorched craters where powerful energy blasts had landed, the jagged remains of destroyed vehicles scattered across the land, and the twisted, glowing wrecks of alien ships still smoldering in the distance. The humans who had survived the battle stood amidst this wasteland, their faces marked by exhaustion and grief. The fight had been brutal, and many had fallen. Some lay motionless on the ground, their bodies covered by a thin layer of ash. Others stood, their weapons still gripped tightly, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the remaining alien forces. They had fought relentlessly, knowing the fate of their world rested on this final stand. Above them, the sky seemed to burn, a reminder of the devastation that had unfolded below. The crimson hues of the setting sun bled into the clouds, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield. It was as if the heavens themselves were mourning the loss of so many lives. As the sun slowly sank beneath the horizon, the flickering light illuminated the broken landscape, casting long, haunting shadows that seemed to stretch on forever. Among the destruction, something remarkable began to appear. The earth itself seemed to hum with energy, and in the midst of the ruin, a faint glow emerged from the ground. The words, "A Last Stand," slowly began to materialize, etched deeply into the scorched soil. It wasn't just a simple carving. The text appeared almost as if it had been forged from the very fabric of the battlefield, glowing faintly against the backdrop of the dying sun. The letters, though faint, pulsed with a quiet, unyielding light, as if to symbolize a hope that had not yet been extinguished. The words, "A Last Stand," were a testament to the human resolve, a mark of the sacrifice and courage of every soul that had fought to protect their home. As the survivors stood in the shadow of the text, they took a moment to process the enormity of what they had just endured. The battle was over, but the war had left its mark on them, on the land, on their bodies, and on their hearts. The battlefield, now silent but for the wind that whispered through the broken ruins, was a place where both loss and victory coexisted. Humanity had won, but at what cost? As the last traces of daylight disappeared beyond the horizon, the survivors looked down at the glowing words beneath their feet. It was more than just a reminder of their victory. It was a symbol of everything they had sacrificed and endured. The Last Stand wasn't just a final battle against the alien forces. It was a declaration of humanity's strength, resilience, and the undying will to survive. The alien invaders had come from the stars, their ships descending like dark omens from the heavens. Their technology was far beyond anything the human race had ever imagined. The sleek, metallic craft shimmered as they cut through the atmosphere, leaving trails of fire in their wake. The alien forces, cold and calculating, had landed with ruthless precision, targeting major cities, military installations, and centers of power. It wasn't a mere invasion. It was a conquest, a calculated extermination of all that humanity had built. The aliens themselves were a terrifying sight, tall and slender. Their bodies were covered in smooth, dark exoskeletons that seemed to pulse with an eerie, otherworldly glow. Their faces were elongated, with sharp features and large, black eyes that seemed to pierce through everything they looked at. They communicated in a language that sounded like a series of harsh, mechanical tones, their voices devoid of any emotion. It was as if they had no need for empathy or compassion. They were creatures of efficiency, bred for one purpose: domination. With each new wave of invaders, humanity's defenses crumbled. The alien forces struck with precision, deploying armies of soldiers with weaponry that seemed to bend the very laws of nature. Energy shields rendered human firearms useless, while beams of destructive light obliterated anything in their path. The cities that once thrived with life and bustling activity were reduced to rubble, their survivors driven into hiding or slaughtered without mercy. For months, the alien occupation was near total. The human resistance, scattered and outgunned, had been pushed to the brink of extinction. Small pockets of survivors huddled together in underground bunkers or in the wilderness tried to avoid detection from the alien patrols that scoured the earth. The sky, once filled with the sounds of human flight and travel, was now dominated by the ominous hum of alien ships. There was no room for hope in this dark new world. Each day felt like a fight for survival, with no guarantee of seeing tomorrow. Yet, in the midst of this despair, the human spirit refused to be crushed. As the alien forces tightened their grip, the remnants of humanity began to regroup. Resistance fighters, once divided and scattered, came together, forming an organized coalition with one goal: to reclaim their planet. The humans had no illusions about the scale of the challenge they faced. They were up against an enemy with advanced technology, superior strength, and an unwavering drive to conquer. But they had something the aliens did not: heart, ingenuity, and a deep, primal desire to survive. Small victories started to pile up. Humans began to adapt, learning how to exploit the weaknesses in the alien forces. Guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strategies, and the use of EMP weapons to disable alien technology became their primary means of resistance. What the aliens had underestimated was the resilience of the human spirit. The invaders had assumed their conquest would be swift and inevitable, but the humans were not as easily defeated as the aliens had anticipated. The alien forces, initially confident in their technological superiority, soon found themselves facing an enemy that refused to surrender. The battle became more than just a fight for survival. It became a war of attrition, a test of endurance. As the weeks turned into months, the aliens began to realize that their once unstoppable march across Earth was not as certain as they had thought. Their supply lines grew thinner. Their forces became more scattered, and their once imposing fleet was gradually being chipped away. For every alien ship destroyed, for every victory that the human resistance achieved, the once unyielding invaders began to falter. The aliens were no longer the hunters. They were now the hunted. And in the ruins of the cities they had once obliterated, humanity was starting to reclaim its ground. The final hours of the battle were a blur of chaos, blood, and desperate resolve. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting an eerie orange glow across the battlefield, humanity's forces made their last stand. The alien invaders, confident that victory was within their grasp, had no idea that the humans were preparing to unleash their final counterattack. The once formidable alien defenses had started to crack, their advanced technology proving vulnerable to the guerrilla tactics the humans had adopted. EMP bombs, hidden in the ruins of the city, had disabled key components of the alien fleet's shielding, giving the human forces a rare opportunity to strike. What followed was a sequence of explosive clashes, an assault on the invaders' stronghold, a desperate last push to drive them out of Earth once and for all. Human soldiers, scarred from months of brutal warfare, charged into battle with an unshakable determination. Each step forward was met with resistance, but they fought with the ferocity of those who had nothing left to lose. Every soldier carried a memory of those who had fallen before them, the faces of friends, family, and comrades in arms etched into their minds. It was no longer just about defeating the aliens. It was about avenging the lives lost and securing a future for the generations yet to come. The streets of the war-torn city became a battleground once more. Explosions rocked the ground, sending up clouds of dust and debris. Alien soldiers, their sleek exoskeletons glinting in the dying light, fought with ruthless efficiency, but the humans had adapted, using the broken buildings and destroyed infrastructure to their advantage. The alien forces, unaccustomed to the unpredictable nature of human tactics, struggled to keep up with the insurgents' relentless assaults. In the distance, the central command ship of the alien fleet hovered above the city. It was the last bastion of their invasion. Destroy it, and their entire operation would collapse. The human resistance knew that taking it down would require everything they had. They gathered their remaining forces for one final, all-or-nothing charge. The battle for the command ship was nothing short of apocalyptic. The streets became a maze of fire and rubble as alien artillery pounded the ground and human soldiers fought tooth and nail to breach the ship's defenses. For hours, the battle raged on, neither side giving quarter. The air was thick with the sounds of gunfire, the roar of explosions and the screams of the fallen. As the humans neared the ship, a final, desperate wave of alien reinforcements emerged, flooding the streets with soldiers intent on stopping the assault at all costs. The two sides collided in a violent storm of violence and fury. The ground trembled under the weight of the conflict, and it seemed as if the very earth itself was protesting the horrors it had witnessed. But against all odds, the human forces prevailed. With a final, coordinated strike, a small team of soldiers managed to plant explosives at the heart of the alien command ship. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic, a brilliant flash of light that illuminated the entire city. The shockwave rippled through the streets, knocking soldiers to the ground and sending debris flying into the air. The alien ship, once the symbol of their power, crumbled into nothingness, reduced to smoldering wreckage. The moment the ship fell, the remaining alien forces lost their will to fight. Their communications broke down, their systems failed, and their command structure disintegrated. It was over. The invaders, defeated and scattered, began their retreat, leaving behind nothing but destruction and desolation. For the humans, it was a bittersweet victory. The cost had been staggering. Countless lives had been lost, and the world lay in ruins. But they had won. The battle for Earth had been fought, and won by those who refused to surrender. As the last of the alien forces disappeared into the distance, humanity stood victorious, though broken and scarred. The survivors stood amidst the devastation, their bodies weary and battered, their faces drawn with exhaustion. The sky, once filled with the oppressive weight of alien ships, was now eerily quiet. The sun had set, casting the battlefield in the cold light of twilight. The silence was almost overwhelming, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. The survivors had no time to celebrate. The real struggle had only just begun. There would be no cheering, no grand speeches. They had to rebuild. But in that moment, amidst the wreckage, there was a sense of hope. Hope that, no matter how dire the situation had become, humanity had triumphed. They had stood together, fought as one, and defeated an enemy that had seemed unbeatable. And though the scars of war would never fade, the memory of this victory would live on. The final stand had been made, and Earth was still theirs. As the last embers of the war slowly faded into night, the survivors of Earth began to process the enormity of what had just transpired. The battlefield, once a place of death and destruction, had become a testament to their survival, a place marked by both loss and triumph. The victory over the alien invaders, though a hard one, was a victory that could never truly undo the devastation that had been wrought upon the planet. In the days that followed the battle, the world was plunged into an eerie silence. The once bustling cities now lay in ruins, their once towering skyscrapers reduced to crumbling skeletons of steel and glass. Nature, too, had been scarred by the invasion. Forests that once teemed with life were now barren, and rivers, once clear and life-giving, ran murky with the debris of war. The earth had been battered, its very soul bruised by the violence and devastation that had unfolded across its surface. But even in the wake of such destruction, life found a way to push through. The human spirit, though broken, was unyielding. In the scattered remnants of cities, pockets of survivors began to emerge, coming together to rebuild what had been lost. Amidst the ruins, humanity began to form new communities, united not just by the tragedy they had endured, but by the hope they shared for a better future. They were not just survivors. They were the seeds of a new world, one born from the ashes of war. The first priority was to rebuild. The destruction had left a global infrastructure in tatters, and it would take years, perhaps even decades, for humanity to return to any semblance of normalcy. Cities had to be rebuilt from the ground up, not just with the remnants of what was left, but with new ideas, new technologies, and new systems that would ensure the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. It was an overwhelming task, but one that could not be avoided. The human race had to rebuild not just its physical structures, but its sense of purpose, unity, and hope. Global leaders, once fractured by political divisions and infighting, now found themselves bound by a common goal: the restoration of Earth. The unity that had been forged in the fires of war now served as a foundation for a new era. Nations that had once been at odds came together, putting aside old rivalries in favor of collective survival. In the ruins of the old world, new alliances were born, alliances based not on conquest or power, but on the shared desire to create a future free from the horrors they had just experienced. As the world began to rebuild, so too did humanity's relationship with the Earth. The scars left by the alien invasion were not only physical, they were also environmental. In the wake of the destruction, humans began to reevaluate their connection to the planet. The importance of sustainability, environmental stewardship, and harmony with nature became central tenets of the New World Order. The rebuilding process wasn't just about reconstructing cities and economies. It was about healing the planet and ensuring that humanity would never again fall prey to the same mistakes that had led to such devastation. Over time, the remnants of the alien invasion were salvaged, studied, and incorporated into the rebuilding process. The technology that had once been used against them became a powerful tool in humanity's quest to rise again. Reverse-engineered alien tech was used to help power new energy sources, create better medical treatments, and even accelerate the rebuilding of the Earth's ecosystems. The very weapons that had been designed to destroy were now being used to heal, to innovate, and propel humanity into a new era of possibility. Yet, despite these advances, the scars of war would never fully fade. The loss of life, the sacrifices made, and the horrors witnessed were imprinted on the hearts of those who had survived. The memory of the battle, of the lives lost, and of the unimaginable destruction that had taken place would linger, a constant reminder of the price of survival. But it was also a reminder of what humanity was capable of: resilience, unity, and the unbreakable will to endure. In the years to come, the survivors of the Last Stand would tell their stories. The tale of how humanity had come together in the face of annihilation, how they had fought back against an overwhelming force and reclaimed their world, would be passed down from generation to generation. It would become a legend, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when they stood together, united in the face of adversity. The words "a last stand," once etched into the scorched earth, would live on in the hearts and minds of all those who had fought, fallen, and survived. It was a symbol of sacrifice, of the unyielding power of the human spirit, and the triumph that arose from the ashes of war. And as the world began to heal and rebuild, the survivors would honor those who had given everything for their victory. The Last Stand had not only saved humanity, it had shaped the future of the entire planet.